The Weatherford Hotel stands at 23 North LaRose Street in Flagstaff, Arizona. Built in 1897 by John W. Weatherford from Weatherford, Texas, it is a prominent landmark in the Flagstaff area. Over the years, we've been in it several times, but only to patronize the eateries and bar scenes. They have some really good nightlife, by the way, and they wear haunted t-shirts and claim that they have haunted activity. We set out to find out. We just had to wait until the wildfires of 2022 played out before we felt comfortable enough to want to book a room. It's the front desk here where you check in, come in the front door, and there is a ring for assistance button here. It's kind of hidden behind a mannequin, but it's there. We booked room 41, which is one of the larger rooms and has its own private bathroom. Some of these rooms do not have their own bathroom. It's a big room. Very nice. Nice big oval mirror.
Don't forget about your bed.
I didn't forget about the bed. Cams and equipment set up, and just before midnight, we head downstairs to the nightclub. The only problem we have is that, it's the one camera, it got damaged in transit, so now we're reduced to 3. We went down to the Gopher Hole, which is in the basement area. It's a big bar, and I would have to say that for the young crowd, it was hopping. Overhearing the various conversations, they're all college kids. And of course they looked at us like, what's Grandma and Grandpa doing down here? That's one of the problems that goes with aging, and everybody encounters it down the road somewhere, if their luck holds out. Overhearing conversations, most if not all, were going to Northern Arizona University just up the street. I graduated Arizona State University down in Tempe well before they were born. Hopefully they'll be as lucky as I am. And if they're unlucky, like a few that we're going to talk about here in just a few moments, well, maybe they'll become one of the famous ghosts themselves. At right around 3:10 in the morning, something bumped, knocked, or fell over in the room. It was loud enough that it made me look up and take notice, but I couldn't see where it had come from. And that's an issue in these old hotels. You never know whether something fell in the room or maybe it was somebody walking down the hallway on the outside and bumped against the wall with his elbow as he's trying to make it to the bed. You don't know. Not every bump in the night is something paranormal unless you can prove it to be so. And for all of you orb lovers out there, yeah, we have those too. You can always tell how long somebody's been investigating by how much they love dust orbs. And this one's pretty cool. It kind of does a loop-de-loop as it goes around the room. That one was one of 100 or more that were captured under the infrared. Remember, our first line of defense against orbs. From the check-in area, this shows where the 2 bars are, the nightclubs, that we went to last night. This one on the entry level appears to be where the workers hang out when they get off shift, in case you want to wander in and ask them about ghostly encounters. The stairway down to the Gopher Hole is right there next to it. Right across from registration goes down to the big bar in the basement called the Gopher Hole. That was really packed last night. Now that guests have checked out, we have time to do a video room check. This is room 39. Probably one of the biggest rooms that they've got. And these rooms now are being made up by the maid. That's how I got in here. So you see the beds are not yet, haven't changed yet. Separate sink outside. And a regular tub like we have with a curtain. What they have that we didn't get in our room is that this looks right down on the room, on the street. So you can see the people walking, and even far in the distance, about a block down, is, I can't quite see it from here, the Hotel Monte Vista is down there. That's one we did a major hunt on a few years ago. Very nice room. Very nice. Obviously, if you chose this room on a weekend, you're going to be kept up until 2 o'clock in the morning until the bars close. There's people walking down the street. Nice TV there. I think they're all the same size in all the rooms. We're going to go down the hall. That was 39, the end of the hallway. Room 40. Smaller room. Has a view of the air ducts outside. Same thing we've got in our room. Standard TV, same size. Wardrobe. Much smaller than 39 is. Has a tub. I don't see any shower attachment here, so apparently in this room you can't take a shower because ours has a stand-up shower attachment, so this is for tub only. Proceed down to the next room is ours, number 41. It's the one we're in. And this transom that's above here, they say that if the light bothers you, there's a switch where you can turn it off, and there is. It's right down here on the hallway. Right on the left, right here. You can turn it off, and now we're dark. And that's in case that light comes through the transom and keeps you awake. This is number 42. I've heard there's one other person still staying in a hotel that's probably here. Got some old photographs on the wall, or newspaper clippings on the wall. There's the fire escape. Turn around, go back to where we came. Notice the old style plumbing that's up here. This is a very old hotel. Last night the hot water was not very hot at all, but this morning it's scalding. Depends on how many people are using it at a time. Upstairs, right here. Come down. This is the door that leads down to the lobby. Very, very stiff, very hard to open. Not only is it hard to open from either side, it also makes a very loud noise when it is opened, and it requires a passcode to get it open. On the other side of the door is where the manager's desk is located, where they can watch people going in and out of this particular part of the hotel. Turning around and going back, we are now going back into the second level of the hotel. Number 43. This is now on the semi-lower level, I guess you could say. And they have a tub. Does have a shower attachment. See that? Like our room has. And this actually is over the nightclub downstairs. I'm sure the noise would definitely keep you awake. It's also got the street out here which goes down to the nightclub. So I can guarantee you that on a weekend you're going to be awake until 2 o'clock in the morning on this one. The Arizona Daily Sun of October 11, 2005 reported upon the death of a female who had fallen out of her hotel room window. Police investigators determined that 44-year-old Tony Lusario had attempted to climb from the window of her hotel room and reached its Zane-Gray balcony after security had cut her off and told her to go to her room. Police said that her judgment might have been impaired by alcohol. Gee, you think? She fell down into an external cement stairwell that leads down to the nightclub downstairs. If that downstairs nightclub wasn't being used on this particular night, people walking by might have assumed that she was just sleeping something off. In the report, the number of the room is not listed, so it could have been this room or it could have been a room above it, which is number 59, that we didn't have access to. Heading out and down this half lower level hallway. There's the stairs that go up to the level I was just on. Number 44 is not open. Is this some kind of an old processor or some kind? It almost looks like a grape press. I'm not really positive what it is that they've redone and is sitting in the hallway here. And then on the other side of it on the wall, they have the entire lithograph area here of old Flagstaff 45. And they've also got a tub shower. See that? So that's the only one that doesn't have a tub shower, just has the tub. This is also above the nightclub and the street. I anticipate staying up late, heading out. Gonna go down the hallway here. And 46 is also not open. So they're not cleaning it, or there's someone in there. Across is this little theater kind of thing, and you can hear the music. They're playing it in the middle of the day. And that's where you park, if you can find a parking spot. Now I'm going to go upstairs to the rooms upstairs and take a look at them. I haven't even been upstairs. Last night they had a wedding going on, so they didn't want us going up there. So we're going to go out the door here and head up the stairs. This goes up to the Zangray Ballroom, and there are some other rooms here. Zangray Ballroom is where they had the wedding going on last night. We're going to head up here. Yeah, it looks like the ballroom is over here. Yep. I'm guessing this is probably where the wedding was held last night. A nice fireplace. Another nice fireplace up there, a separate room. Big place. Again, this one's on the corner. What are you doing? Got a bar up here, huh? Yeah. Nice to have a little mini band playing in the afternoon, but definitely can't talk over them. The street directly below us is East Aspen, and that corner is the corner of LaRue and Aspen. Right down the street there, just one block down, you can see the Hotel Monte Vista. That's the hotel that we did a hunt at once before, and we managed to gather a little bit of activity. Room 59. From the outside of the building, it appears that room 59 is directly over room 43. In fact, it looks like you could open a window up and reach out and touch the balcony of the Zangray Bar. This makes it more likely that the falling death occurred from this room. Right next to the porch where people revel on, that's going to keep you awake. Hear the music out there. Then we have another hallway coming down here. It says, oh, that's the restroom, that's the women's. This must be the male, that's the men's. Okay. This hat is so dark, I have to turn the infrared on for that one. On down here, 54 is a linen closet. That's where they're doing the laundry and stuff. Former room 54, the Weatherford's historically haunted room, has now been converted into a linen service area. Supposedly this room had seen the likes of a murder-suicide or maybe just a suicide that goes back to the 1930s. During that time frame, a newlywed couple had stayed in this room and both of them had been killed, or he had deserted her and she had committed suicide. You know, it's the same story that we get from all of these hotels all over the United States, but especially here predominantly in Arizona, that some guy jilts the girl and the girl ends up hanging herself or committing suicide in some fashion or another, which really tells me that the people that are starting these fabrications are men. Why isn't the man ever the one that commits suicide? I really don't think that times and emotions have changed that much. I think that if a woman is jilted or her husband leaves her for another woman, something like that, especially on her wedding day, she's not going to hang herself or blow her brains out or something like that. She's going to hunt the guy down with a dull steak knife, and when she catches him, it isn't going to be pork loin that she intends to carve off. Anyway, as with all of the other hotels that have the same story, there is no factual context to this. There are no records that can be found supporting that evidence. But that doesn't mean that there aren't historically verifiable deaths that have occurred here at the Weatherford. Stay with us, and we'll go into that shortly. 58 across from that. I know that these rooms up here share a common bathroom. If you want on the upper level, you'll get them cheaper than you will on the lower level. 56 and 54 are the same washing machine. 57, not unlocked. Small room here, I don't know what that is. And this looks like this is one of the common bathrooms here. This is what I would think. This is a bathroom. And that's it. I don't see a shower anywhere. Maybe the next one over here was the shower. I don't know. Big sign here for the Weatherford. Can't really. The first part of the Weatherford was completed in 1898, a stone structure at a time when most of Flagstaff was burning down through wood structures. Over the years, it has had different owners and proprietors, as we see here, but in the original days, it was the Weatherfords that ran it. Patrons came for the food, for marriages. They even had a pool hall at one time, owned by the local fire engineman, who offered to resign his position on the fire department to run the pool hall, but they said that he was too valuable to lose. He could go ahead and answer calls from the pool hall as he needed to. Famous people came to stay here, like William Randolph Hearst and author Harold Bell Wright. Yeah, I don't know either. This guy got lost in time somewhere. The brick building didn't keep it from flooding, or prevent stupid guests from trying to burn it down. This tenant was smoking weed and caught his bed on fire. I don't think the term weed had the same connotation to it back in 1907 as it does now, but it was prophetic of the newspaper writer. And through the years, the fire hits just keep on coming. In 1929, almost taking the ground back. On March 9, 1901, the Coconino Sun would report that well-known businessman W.H. Thompson was sick with pneumonia and was being treated at the Weatherford. Thompson would become the first verifiable death at the hotel. There is no death certificate for William. Death certificates around this time usually were not filed properly or just lost. But William Thompson was a popular and well-liked man, so the papers reported on him handily. He did succumb to pneumonia that evening at the Weatherford. The Coconino Sun did a big write-up on him a week later. He was a heavy in the Presbyterian Church and a Freemason. His body was transported by rail car back to Pennsylvania, where he came from and his family was at. On the train ride, 2 of the ceremonial York Rite Knights Templars guarded his casket. If you're looking for somebody haunting the hotel, which is usually out of strife or some kind of misfortune, an early death, it's not this guy. At least that's our opinion based upon the totality of the circumstances. Now, the next guy that comes along, the next death, he's a different story altogether. On October 3, 1912, a well-known and respected contractor was shot and killed in the lobby of the Weatherford by a deputy sheriff, Deputy Sheriff Frank Fairchild. This little newspaper report says that Rockmark was drunk and he was shooting up the hotel when he turned his gun on the deputy sheriff. The deputy sheriff shot and killed him instantaneously. Well, that's true, but at the same time, it doesn't do the story justice, and it's not going to help you if you're thinking that his ghost might be here. We're going to have to go into it with more detail. Here is Henry Rockmark's death certificate from October 3rd, 1912. I know this document is dark and difficult to see. Even if it was clear, you'd be able to see that the word Weatherford Hotel is not on there anywhere. The location of his death was not identified. It isn't really needed on the document because his death was big news across the western United States. All of the newspapers reported it, and they weren't shy about bringing up the Weatherford's name. When I researched this, I started going through his will, and I found that the will had what I'd call subsections and subsections to those subsections. I basically went through about 30 pages and just gave up. My guess is that the entire will probably composes about 90 pages. He held that much property. So let's take a look at the full story, the non-abridged story. Running down the hallways claiming that someone was trying to listen through the walls of his room, Rockmark fired 3 rounds from a .45 Colt revolver through the walls of his room. It was reported in another paper that he had done the same thing the night before. The sheriff was called, and the resulting gun battle left Rockmark dead. The Coconino Sun reported that Rockmark chased off the bartender in the downstairs saloon and then went to the front desk and decided that he was going to try to kill the clerk, maybe because the clerk didn't stop the people from listening through the walls. Deputy Fairchild was carrying an automatic pistol, whereas Rockmark had a revolver. The newspaper article doesn't say what kind of automatic pistol that the deputy was carrying, but the broom-handled Mauser was available at that time, and if he was really, really lucky, he might have even had one of the early prototypes of the 1911 45 ACP. One thing's for certain, Rockmark was well outgunned. Rockmark was hit several times, felled, and bled out right in front of the office, right where you check in at. Okay, and right next to it is the stairways that go downstairs. There's a loop-de-loop here. Goes down to the bottom. Now at that bottom stair right there is exactly where I believe Henry Rockmark was shot and killed October 3rd, 1912 by a deputy sheriff. So they probably have some activity hanging around that particular area. When we were there on location, I left these news reports with the manager. He told me that a cowboy has been seen sitting at the Zane Gray Bar upstairs. He always asks for 3 fingers of whiskey, which is an old-time measurement. When the bartender turns back around to serve him, he has vanished. They speculate it's because one of the bars was brought out of Tombstone and transported here, but from my booking, it's this guy. 5 years later, on April 20th, 1917, C. Metzger dies after spending a few days in the Weatherford seeking health care. He had Bright's disease, which is advanced kidney disease, was advised to go to the hospital, but instead decided to stay in the hotel and rest up. No death certificate could be located. Natural death hardly ever causes activity. The next recorded death at the hotel doesn't happen until 1932. On June 21st, 1932, Marvin Dugdale, an 8-year-old boy who had been staying at the Weatherford for a couple of weeks, drowned, which means to experience respiratory impairment from submersion-immersion in a liquid medium. Had it been submersion-immersion in anything other than water, it probably wouldn't have been branded as accidental. So where did this water come from? In many of these 1800 vintage hotels, a well was dug in the basement area before the building was actually erected over the top of it, because there wasn't any running water. That basement area at the Weatherford is now the Gopher Hole Bar. When we went down there and checked it out, we didn't see any evidence that there had ever been anything like that there. Nor did I find anything that looked like an old cistern around the property. So that leaves the last source of water, which would be a bathtub. But we're talking about an 8-year-old child here, not a toddler. We didn't have a clear-cut answer for it until we got home and we could do more research. And found the answer we did. Mervin's mother, Maud, died of cardiac insufficiency, combined with acute dilation of the stomach. Cardiac insufficiency, of course, is a heart attack, heart failure, whereas acute dilation of the stomach can be from perforation or restriction. These are life-threatening, as it was for Mervin's mother. She died 11 days after giving birth to him. These were complications of childbirth. Dugdale was the name on the father's side of the family, and the mother of the father, the grandmother on that side of the family, took young Mervin to Chandler, Arizona, and she was the one that brought him back up to the Weatherford. But he didn't die in the hotel. This was big news for the area, even down in Tucson, where this report is from. Mervin drowned at Northern Arizona State Teachers College, now known as Northern Arizona University. That's within walking distance of the Weatherford. Grandma brought him up to Flagstaff to try to enroll in the university swim team. And when they cleared the pool and went back to classes, nobody noticed that he was laying on the bottom. Little Mervin had a rough time coming into and going out of life. He's buried in Ely, up next to where his mother's buried at. And the next time that I'm in Ely, Nevada, up there at the railroad, I'm going to stop by his grave. Is it possible there's activity of him there at the Weatherford? It's hard to say. He didn't die there, but then that's probably the one place that he found some achievement in life that he might be able to grasp onto. The manager told us that there have been reports of a young boy being sighted down in the Gopher Hole area, walking through one of the walls, so maybe so. Now you know his name and his story. If you think you see him, call him by name. See if he gives you a little wink. 66-year-old Ogden R. Elliott died at the Weatherford on October 22, 1948, of acute pulmonary tuberculosis. This advanced lung infection rattled the old West towns from the 1920s through the 1940s. A rough way to end your life, but still it's a natural death. One day after Christmas, on December 26, 1951, rancher Aubie Burr Sims passed away in one of the rooms of the Weatherford. The death certificate doesn't have the name of the Weatherford Hotel on it. What it does have is the address here, 21 North LaRue. Both 21 North LaRue and 23 North LaRue, as well as 31 North LaRue, are addresses that have been assigned to the Weatherford over the years. Aubie died of coronary thrombosis, with the interval between onset and death listed as instant. Coronary thrombosis is a blood clot passing through the heart which either restricts or stops entirely the blood flow. In this case, it was entirely. What I found to be an oddity is his first and middle name. At the Hotel Vendome, which is in Prescott, the psychics that came up with the name of the ghost that supposedly hunts that hotel is Abbie Burr, a female. But all of the apparition sightings, including my own, are that of a cowboy. Just saying. That's odd. The last Weatherford death that we can go into, because our records end at 1960, is that of Albert Alexander Hall, who, at the time of his death on June 15, 1957, was the Weatherford Hotel owner. Death location again identified by the address 21 North LaRue Street. He died from a cerebral hemorrhage caused by hypertension. A blood vessel bursts and leaks into the brain, which is just the opposite of a stroke. Those who do survive are left with lifelong disabilities. The newspaper article from the Arizona Daily Sun shows that Hall had purchased it in 1946, so he actually owned it for 11 years. Sometimes when people have been around something for a long period of time, it can hold some residual imprint. But we still believe, in absence of other information, that the only active haunting would be by Henry Rockmark, our neurotic roomer shot and killed by the sheriff's department in the lobby. Still looking out after his interests. The following evening, the last evening of our stay, was a Sunday. None of the nightclubs were open. Bars can stay open till 2 a.m., but most of them closed at 11. One stayed open till midnight. It makes for an early night for everyone, and of course the college kids, they probably have college the next morning anyway. That having been said, there was an oddity. At 1:21 in the morning, somebody walked down the hallway by our room. I could hear a male and a female voice. They woke me up. I listened to them as they droned in the distance. That was really odd because we'd been told that we and one other guest were the only two that were staying in the hotel that night. We didn't know if they were staying on our floor, so we can't discount that. But I didn't hear that squeaky door open. I did hear them walking down the hallway. And you wouldn't be able to sleep through that entry door with the punched-in keypad. It's really loud. The voices weren't loud enough to be picked up on surveillance, so we just have to assume that it was that one other guest in the hotel other than us, but it was odd.
Mm-hmm. What?
Based upon this evidence, we had to give the Weatherford Hotel an activity level of none encountered and none recorded. We hope that your investigation turns out to be better than ours. If so, please post it for us to see.